Joining us for analysis on the current state of the GNU as well as the SACP forging ahead with its decision to contest elections independently is political analyst Professor Kedibone Phago. Good evening, Professor. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Stay the course, stay in the room, hold the line, keep building compromise. Now, this is the plea from business leaders to both President Cyril Ramaphosa and DA leader John Steenhuisen, a letter that has, of course, received mixed reviews. Your take on just that initiative by the business community?
Good evening, and thank you for having me. It's interesting actually what is coming out there that we are in this juncture. But I think, as the president said, that business is part of our community, it's part of our country, and they need to say what is in the best interest of the country and of business, because we don't want, to move past this situation and then we don't know what are the voices of the different sectors of the community. But I think the point should also be that does the president mean what he says? And for me, that is quite important, because we may want to reflect a little bit more on that.
In what sense? Can you expand when you say, does he mean what he says? Can you just expand on that? What are your views?
Because the involvement of business in our body politics, and actually even in funding political parties, and in some cases we know that even himself, when he was contesting the presidency of the ANC, has had some businesses funding him. So to come and say that we will not allow business to influence public policy and the decisions that need to be made in terms of how government should be configured, may really want some little bit of more clarity on when does he expect business to be involved and when can it not be involved, and in what way. So I don't think it's really a very clear statement from what he said.
Then to the position of the DA itself. We know on the budget what or at least they've articulated their position. We know where they stand and why. The ANC, however, argues that the move to go against the position of the GNU on the budget was a red line that the DA shouldn't have crossed, while on the other hand, we have the DA accusing the ANC of acting in bad faith by seeking support outside the GNU, saying perhaps they should have dealt with the stalemate among themselves. According to you, given this back and forth of accusations, who is wrong and who is right in this matter? Because this is what has brought them to this moment anyway.
Very interesting, times that we live in, actually. So essentially, what is the basis is that a budget is a statement of the cabinet. And that is very important, because it would mean that it is members of that cabinet, so the president, the deputy president, the ministers, who should be united and, of course, using the Minister of Finance, go into Parliament and say, this is our priorities and projections for our medium-term plan that we are working with at the moment. That is essentially what is supposed to happen.
But citizens have been saying,
many other issues.
Pardon me for interjecting, but citizens have been saying that this debate that we've seen has actually led to greater interest in the budget. We even had the finance minister himself, when he took to the podium last week, indicating that never in the history of our democracy has there been such great interest in the budget, and perhaps this great debate is something that we're all the better for.
sure about that, because we must also remember that this is for the very first time we have a government of national unity, and all this time we had ANC, giving us the marching orders and making the budget priorities for the country based on the elections outcome. So maybe it is for the first time that it is a little bit more clearer and more visible that members of the society in South Africa are actually interested in the budget priorities, because remember, we have very serious chronic socio-economic problems, the issue of unemployment, the issues of poverty. These are critical issues that the country is facing, and I don't think that South Africans can sit back and say it is for the first time we are interested in the budget. I don't think it should be presented in that way.
And then now, given the position of the DA, there are those that are of the view that possibly the decision that the ANC is going to take is to actually remove the DA from the GNU and possibly rope in the likes of Action SA and BOSA. But such a GNU could proceed, but many say that it would then somehow potentially introduce more instability, as passing legislation would require the buy-in of other parties outside of the GNU. So would this be a desirable option, though?
No, I think, as I said, we are living in interesting time, and the ANC has to come to the reality that they are that the DA is the second majority party, and to exclude DA from their GNU, it's going to actually, as you rightly point, have a lot of instability, because they will still need the numbers, especially in Parliament, in the National Assembly, when they process some of the bills and some of the laws. But again, I think DA has come to a cul-de-sac, and this was a huge blunder, and they are going to pay heavily for this, because remember, this is not new. They have been coming and saying, we're not happy with the Bella Bill, we're not happy with the Expropriation Act, and now, and they lost all those battles. And now I think they took it to where they shouldn't have. And for me, and the observation I've made is that the DA's lifeline as a political party is for them to be staying in the GNU, as well as the ANC. So it is in the interest of both parties, if they want to increase their electoral fortunes in the next round, that they actually do their best to maintain as much stability of the current GNU as possible, because there are already projections, if we look at the 2024 elections, that especially ANC will take a huge dip if it does not make use of the opportunity that it has from this current GNU. So we are really in uncharted territory, and it's going to be tough for both ANC and for the DA, because they need to make very sober and sound decisions that are not just favoring them as political parties, but they need to make decisions in the best interest of South Africa.
Professor, indeed, these are uncharted waters. Thank you very much for your insights this evening, though. That was political analyst Professor Kedibone Phago speaking to us.